You didn't believe it when people said to you you'd been nominated?
No, it was so beyond fathomability, if that's a word for me, that it was just, for about 24 hours, we just thought we'd maybe been punked.
And who can blame her?
With the daybreak light.
Toronto singer Laila Biali may be well known in Canada's jazz community, but in terms of name recognition, take a look at her fellow Grammy nominees in this year's Best Traditional Pop category. Vancouver-born Biali is an independent artist, not backed by a big label. So independent that she had to fill out and submit her Grammy application on her own.
It feels a little bit like a shot in the dark, to say the least. And in this case, as you might know, I had entered into jazz and they moved it into traditional pop. And at that point I thought, there's no way. I cannot break through in this category as a nominee.
You're listening to CBC Music, and I'm your host, Laila Biali.
The musician and host of CBC's Saturday Night Jazz is a Juno winner who's balanced her solo career with stints as a backup singer for Paula Cole and Sting. Wintersongs is her 10th studio release. It was co-produced with her husband, Ben Whitman. We met up at the Jazz Bistro in Toronto. Tell me about the moment that you discovered you'd been nominated for the Grammy.
Well, we were sitting at home, my husband and co-producer and I. We had our computers set to their broadcast, which was live. And interestingly, they didn't announce my category as part of the broadcast, so people started texting me. There was a separate feed, and we didn't think it was real. And Ben said, you better check to make sure it's accurate before you start sharing and posting about this.
And when you did verify it?
Yeah.
Then what?
Oh, I mean, in some ways, awe is a strong word to use, but I had come out of such a hard season of possibly, not really wanting to hang up my mic, but just not sure about next steps, a woman in midlife, figuring it out.
Well, you had hit your head backstage at a performance and you had a concussion and whiplash. It affected your voice.
Yeah.
You were performing less. You had less of a vocal range than before.
Yeah.
You and your manager parted ways?
Canadian agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the nomination must have been such a turnaround.
It really was. It kind of felt like a little bit of a life vest, musically speaking. Because music is what I love and truly what I most want to do and want to continue to do. But it's tough out there, The
other nominees in the category are amazing. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But let's focus right now on Wintersongs, your album. And what should people watching know about that album?
Well, it's a love letter to Canadian winter.
The mountainside in morning light casts some miracle hue.
I wrote it at the Banff Centre, which is really my creative home and has been for 10 years now. It's where I go to do most of my writing, and often just in 3 days at a time. But with Wintersongs, I was gifted 2 weeks at this incredible studio in the woods with floor-to-ceiling glass windows and looking out on winter scenes. So it's like the snow is falling, right? I'm painting at the piano. It's not much at the piano, but with the strings, it begins to really expand.
So you're in Banff,
Yeah.
and you're putting together pieces of Wintersongs,
Yeah.
and then you're sending voice files to your husband.
I am. Yeah, so interestingly, these days, I don't write anything down until the song, it may not be fully formed, but I get quite a ways into it before I will write anything down. And the first thing that happens is I record it on my voice memos on my iPhone, and then I send those voice memos. Usually, I may listen to them a few times myself to make sure I'm happy with what I'm hearing, and then I'll send them off to Ben. And so he'll listen to these songs, he'll import them into his studio, which is in our home, in our basement. And he begins to kind of let them marinate a little bit, and he's starting to get ideas. And very often we're on the same page once we actually come together in the flesh, usually in our living room. The upright piano, Ben will bring, sometimes it's his kit.
Just like a setup like this, and I'm actually about this far away
It's
from
kind
you.
of
It's
like
pretty
this,
much just
actually.
like this.
Welcome to our living room, Canada. So here we go.
Let's talk about those other nominees for a moment. I'm going to throw the names out, and maybe you can give me a sentence or two reaction, because
sure.
it is an incredible list.
Yeah, it is.
Jennifer Hudson.
Iconic, first album in 10 years. Together with Common the rapper, I mean, she's a showstopper. It's a showstopper.
Elton John and Brandi Carlile.
Also iconic, and two of the best songwriters you will ever come across, on top of being extraordinary singers and people.
Lady Gaga.
The Queen. She loves jazz, so that makes her, that endears her to me especially, but what a powerhouse singer, and she's fearless. In everything that she does, she is fearless.
Leve.
One of my favorites now, a new favorite. And I listened to her album following the nomination and was quite stunned by what I heard, the authenticity. They call her the Taylor Swift of mid-century modern music. It was my 13-year-old at the time, he's now 15, who introduced me to her because she'd exploded over TikTok. And she's the new it girl, and she deserves to be that.
And I saved for the last Barbra Streisand.
Babs, Barbara. Well, I already used the word queen for Lady Gaga, but I have the feeling that's what Lady Gaga would say about Barbra Streisand. She's the OG, she's the GOAT. She's the greatest of all time.
I'm not saying this, you said it on Instagram. You're kind of the underdog in this category.
Yeah, I am. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, so how does a plucky, independent, resilient artist compete against these others for the vote? What's your strategy?
That's a really good question, because I have been very daunted at how to approach campaigning and how to continue to make sure that my music is heard by my fellow Recording Academy members. And I think I just have to continue to share who I am as a musician and person, my story, Wintersongs, and hope that the music, the artistry, speaks for itself. I can't really compete against the profile of the artist that you just named. Mm-hmm. And so I have to do it like a Canadian. You know what I mean?
Big? No.
Yeah, right. But I think Ben, again, my husband, he said, don't apologize. That's what I always want to do. I want to say, this is not, it doesn't make sense. That's really what's running through my head. And he reminds me, you got to own this. You were fairly put forward and got given one of 6 spots by your peers, by the Academy, so be proud.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful not to hide it under a bushel, as they say.
It's a beautiful album, and one of the nice things about this nomination is that people will discover it. And I mean, I discovered it because of the nomination, and I'm so glad I did, because it's a beautiful thing to listen to. Sting is one of the many artists who are doing duets with Barbra Streisand on her album, and you worked with him. He's a friend of yours.
He is. I mean, it feels bold to say that, but he's so kind. And, we've now known one another for, 16 years? And he is a musician's musician, and working with him, it was like getting into the sandbox together. He's the consummate professional and so ridiculously talented, but he just loves the process. And he invites all the musicians he works with into the process. And then, we've remained friends. We've continued to work together just here and there. And I actually texted him when I got the nomination that day, and he said, "You've got my vote." Which I thought was incredibly generous.
Yeah, well, especially because he's on one of the other.
I know, I didn't even know at that time
albums.
yet.
Any good thing to make us all merry. Soul cake, a soul cake. Please goodness a little soul cake. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, 3 for him that made us all.
Did you learn anything from Sting about fronting a band?
Yeah. Yes, I did. So he was, in terms of rehearsals, he was the first to show up and the last to leave. So never rest on your laurels. Like, always be serious about the music. But on top of that, he's gracious. So we were at his villa in Tuscany, the 4 singers who were working with him on his Wintersongs.
Let's just pause for a moment.
I know.
That's a pretty cool sentence.
Yes.
We were at his villa in Tuscany, Sting's villa.
Il Palagio, right? And so I whisked off to this incredible estate that also feels like it's grand, but it's also very warm. And there was one song that was new to me, and I was sight reading it, and for some reason I mixed up like what I thought it was in treble clef, but it was in bass clef, and so I was singing all the wrong notes. And he just let me carry on, and it wasn't to humiliate me. It's as though he trusted me to figure it out on my own. He didn't want to say, "Oh, wait, hold on." And that's what I noticed, kind of from there forward, in various settings, working with him. You know, people would botch things and would make mistakes, and he just always left space for them to sort it out themselves. There was a lot of trust.
So you yell less now to the people you work with after seeing him?
I was never a yeller.
I know.
Horse part, sleigh ride, runner, slip and slide.
Grammy night, have you thought about it?
Yeah. It's like Grammy day and night. It just goes on and on and on between all the different categories, and there's a pre-televised segment and a televised segment. Haven't figured out what I'm wearing yet, but I'll work with a Canadian stylist, Joe Jin, and I'll be decked from head to toe in Canadian creations, no doubt.
It's only been a few weeks since the nomination. Has it changed anything yet?
Mostly my internal landscape, you know? Every now and then you need someone else to tell you that they believe in you. And for me, that was that moment. So I feel profoundly different than I did prior to the nomination. I felt like I was winding down. Now it feels a little bit like I'm winding up again. So, yeah.